Hi, welcome back to the workshop. I asked for suggestions a few weeks ago for videos that people would like to see. This is probably the most requested one, and I thought as it's going to be the first video of 2021, it's probably a good idea to talk about some of the plans that I've got coming up as well. So this video is going to be a tour of the workshop, a little bit of background about how the workshop came to be, and a discussion of some of the plans that I've got for the coming 12 months. So the shed itself is purpose built as a workshop. Prior to having this workshop, I was using the garage that's next door where I restored and housed my vintage Volkswagen Beetle. And I had about a 3-foot workbench at one end of that, which I used for building my guitars and stuff. This was less than ideal for a number of reasons. Firstly, there was nowhere near enough space and you were constantly shifting stuff around to make things happen. And secondly, the car was getting covered in sawdust constantly. So something had to be done about that, and this is the result, the workshop that you see now. Construction wise, it's a concrete slab with a couple of courses of brick around the bottom and then just simple timber frames to make up the walls. The outside is clad with 1/2 inch OSB board, but then with some shiplap over the top of that. On the inside, all the cavities are stuffed with rock wool for insulation. There's a vapour barrier and then plasterboard or drywall over the top of that, which is then skimmed with plaster. The building's fully wired for electric. There's multiple sockets around the walls, obviously lights, and there's also an air line that comes in from a compressor that's housed in the garage next door. Okay, so the shed itself is quite small. It's about 15 square metres, so that's roughly 160 square feet. So not very big at all. So I've kind of needed to make the most of the space. So at one end of the shed, I've got this range of cabinets. On the bottom, these are actually converted filing cabinets. Taken the insides out, cut them down a bit, put some drawers and doors on the front of them. And above there is this range of kitchen cabinets that I've recycled. A friend of mine contacted me. His parents were getting rid of this kitchen and he asked me if I wanted it to recycle the cherry out of it. Instead I just recycled it and I'm using it as storage cabinets. And also in this corner we have the disc sander, which I use a lot. This is one of my main tools. Grinder in the corner for chisels and general sharpening. And right in the corner there we have where the airline comes in from the compressor, which is housed in the garage that this shed adjoins onto. And as we move around from there, we have my plane rack. Obviously holds all of my planes and my marking gauges as well. Of the planes on that rack, I can only think of 2 or 3 that I've bought new. The rest of them have all been kind of bought off eBay or other places and restored, brought back into use. As you can probably tell, I'm a fan of a hand plane. So going through these, we have a number 6 plane, number 5 Stanley, number 4.5 Stanley, number 4 Stanley, and a number 3 Stanley. I actually did a video about buying this one on eBay. And I've filmed the restoration of this. I've just got to edit it and upload it. Then 2 router planes, a Record and a Stanley. 2 very small router planes, a few spoke shaves, block planes, and a couple of shoulder planes. That's a Rider shoulder plane, very good for the money, and that's one that I just made myself. So this tool wall is going to be very familiar to regular viewers. It's very much a work in progress. There's a lot more stuff that I want to put on here. I just haven't got round to making the holders and the racks, etc. to put stuff on. But there's quite a lot of the stuff that I use on a regular basis is on this wall. So my chisels, which are kind of my go-to, a set of Japanese hand saws, rasps, straight edges and stuff. And then in this little rack, I'll bring you in closer on this. This is all my kind of marking and measuring stuff that I use on a regular basis. Okay, so this little unit originally was built to sit on my bench, and it's all the stuff that I use all the time. And the idea there was that it was constantly on the bench and I could just reach out and grab the stuff that I needed. The downside is, as you're working on the bench, it tends to rattle all over the place and can be a little bit annoying. So it's ended up on the wall. This was only ever built as a prototype, but it's been that useful that it never went past that stage. One day I might make the real thing. But basically, it's got a little cup there to hold all my pencils and Sharpies and stuff like that. It's got my digital calipers at the back. My marking knife, which is constantly in use. There's another little marking knife there. You can tell how often I use that. I can't get it out. Little general purpose blade. Sliding bevel. A range of small rules. Scribe. Don't really use that much, but it's there just in case. And then I've got a set of small engineer squares that you will see me using those all the time, and a small sliding square. My chisel mallet, that's actually something that I made. It's HDPE, so it's recycled plastics from milk cartons and shampoo bottles and things like that. It's really good. It's hard enough to be useful, but it's not so hard that it's going to mark your tools or damage your chisel handles. But it's quite a resilient material as well, so I've been using that for about 4 years now, and there's no damage or anything on it. Little Veritas wheel gauge, really good tool. Ratcheting screwdriver and my awl, which you will see me using pretty much every time I drill a hole. And I also keep on here a couple of other little bits and pieces. Pencil sharpener, very important. Rubber eraser for taking the lines I don't want off. And also this little block of candle wax. Really useful for lubricating the soles of planes, so you'll often see me rub this on the sole of a plane. Makes it much easier to use. And also, if I'm putting in little screws, say machine head screws, stuff like that, I always rub a little bit of wax into the threads just to lubricate them as they go in. Makes breaking of screws much less likely. Okay, so the tool wall extends around this corner. I've currently got my clamps on there, but this is where the big changes are going to take place in the workshop in the next few months. The first and big thing that's going to happen is this bench is going to be replaced by a slightly different configuration. So the pillar drill is going to be moved over here to where the bandsaw is, but it's going to be swung through 90 degrees on a new bench. Which means I'll just get much better use out of it. The bench itself will have drawers in it for all my drill bits and other bits and pieces that I would use whilst using the drill. The rest of this bench is going to be a little bit narrower and not quite so tall, but it's going to be built in such a way that my table saw and a new router table can fit underneath it and be wheeled out when I need to use them. This bench currently has my router table built into it, so every time I want to use it I have to clear off the bandsaw and all the stuff that goes behind it. A little bit of a pain, so if I can get away without doing that, I'll be very happy. That bench will then return around the corner and run the whole length of this tall wall at about the height of the bottom rail. It'll extend out probably about a foot. And inside of that I'm going to put racks and drawers for tools and sundries, etc. The idea being that everything I need on a regular basis will be right behind me, so I'll just have to turn around and get it rather than walk to the other side of the shed. Now in terms of the machinery, this drill press is from Axminster. I've had this longer than I've been in this shed, so probably about 5 or 6 years now. Very nice bit of kit. Spent a little bit more than I probably needed to on this one, for the simple reason is you can adjust the distance between the drill and the pillar which is incredibly useful. Now, I don't ever imagine that I'll need to drill that far away from the pillar, but having the option to do it is nice. But it is very, very useful for drilling string through holes on guitar bodies, because most drills don't have that gap, they don't have that distance to enable you to do it. So that's why I bought this one. Really glad I did. The other bit of kit on here is this little Lumberjack Bandsaw. Very cheap. I believe this one was about £170 a couple of years ago. Very good bit of kit for the money. The only thing I've had to do with this in all the time I've had it, apart from replacing blades, was I had to put a new drive belt on, which took about 10 minutes, and the drive belt was about £4, I believe. Other than that, it's been absolutely flawless. I would highly recommend one of these if you're in the market for a small bandsaw. I'm hoping with the changes I've got planned to the workshop that I'm going to free up a bit of space, and one of the things I want to do with that space is to invest in a bigger bandsaw. Not that there's anything wrong with this one other than its size. It is very small, so it's limited in what it can cut. And in terms of kind of resawing wood, you know, you've got maybe 4 inches of usable width there. Ideally, I would want something that I could resaw guitar tops on, so something that can handle 7 or 8 inches. The other important bit of equipment, and this is a major part of the workshop that's used all the time, features in every single video, is the workbench. As you can see, this is a split top Rubo type bench. Now, the bench was built about 3 years ago, totally out of timber that I reclaimed, actually from a skip. The top on it is about 4 inches thick. It's about 2 foot wide. It weighs an absolute ton, which is great because it doesn't move when you're working on it. And there's a storage area underneath, as you can see. The center section lifts out so you can clamp through the bench, but it also has slots in for holding tools and for all your bits and pieces to fall through into the shelf below and get lost in all the templates and scrapwood and stuff that's down there. So that can be a little bit annoying, but other than that, very, very happy with the bench. I'm not going to talk too long about the bench because I'm going to dedicate a video specifically to it in the next few months. And the last thing I want to develop is to get rid of what I refer to as the rack of crap. So it's basically this set of shelves that just got everything that hasn't really got a home stuck on them. What I'd like to do here is create some kind of fold away paint booth so I can finish my projects in the booth with an extractor, so the shop's not going to get full of overspray. And then when I've done, I can just fold it back against the wall so it's not taking up too much space. I'm not sure how feasible that is. I need to do a bit of thinking about it, a bit of measuring, see what we can achieve. So there you have it, quick tour of the Shed of Dreams. Now, as many of you will know from following my other videos, I like to use reclaimed materials as much as I can. And that's something that I've done with this shed as well. As you will have seen, a lot of it has been reused, from these units, the units at the bottom, the workbench, totally reclaimed material, but also a lot of the studs that I used in constructing this place were things that I've pulled from other jobs. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I am going to be filming the upgrades as I go through them, so I'll keep you up to speed with those. I'm genuinely excited about some of the stuff that I've got coming up in the new year to show you. So if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.